Roll call, Mr. Burke. Here. Mr. Landwehr. You'll be typing later. Mrs. Olson.
Here.
Mr. Glanick. Here. Mr. Cowley. Here. Mrs. Burnett.
Here.
And I am obviously here. Let's all rise. For the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda was posted throughout the district according to the school board policy, published as a legal ad in the Superior Telegram, posted on the district web page, and sent to the WNXR radio station for announcement. A meeting notice was sent to the Connection for publication. Approval of the June 5th, 2023 agenda. That's this agenda. I need a motion.
Make a motion.
Motion made. We need a second. Second right here. And all those in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have the consent agenda, and part of that is the May 8th, 2023 regular board meeting minutes, open and executive session. And then we have the treasurer's report. Very timely.
I was saying parking was a killer. All right. A summary of the treasurer's report as of May 31, 2023. General fund, general account on May 31, 2023. There is a balance of $1,225,515.63 in cash and investments. Receipts since the 1st of June and not included in the May 31 balance are $50,594,031. And the disbursements from tonight's board meeting total $100,858.84. The flexible spending account on May 31, 2023, there was a balance of $29,196.25 in cash and investments. The health reimbursement account on May 31, 2023, there was a balance of $10,859.78 in cash and investments. In the debt service fund on May 31, 2023, there was a balance of $673.45 in cash and investments, and a more detailed report on fund activities included for your review in the financial statements.
Thank you. Payment of invoices, and all of the board members received those ahead of time and hopefully had a chance to talk to Mr. Kupchak-Conder if you had any questions. And then retirement, resignations, employment, leave of absence, Dr. Coney.
Charles Nolt, technology education teacher at Northwestern High School. Jackie Gammons, district office assistant bookkeeper and administrative assistant, effective June 2nd, 2023. Julie Thermosgard, special education teacher at Northwestern High School. And Terry Larson, part-time elementary paraeducator. Those two came in since your board packet went out. Leave of absence, Chad Redine, special education paraeducator at Northwestern Elementary School, is requesting a first semester leave of absence to student teach. He is completing a special education teaching certification. Should I move right on?
Sure.
Okay. Ashley Moore, 4K at Northwestern Elementary School. Ms. Moore has taught in the district for the past 2 years as a substitute. Ms. Moore completed her bachelor's of science degree at University of Wisconsin Superior with a major in elementary education and a minor in early childhood education. She student taught in grades kindergarten and first grade at the Four Corners Elementary School in Superior, and the team interviewed 8 candidates for this position. Stacy Jardine for hire as a part-time 4th grade teacher at Iron River Elementary School. Mrs. Jardine has a very rich teaching background, and she has taught multiple grades in the Superior School District and for the South Shore School District. Mrs. Jardine currently serves as an instructional coach and academic interventionist for the South Shore School District. Mr. Larrabee, is it over 20 years of experience?
I believe so.
Okay, that's it for employment.
Okay, all right, we will need a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda, which will include the leave of absence.
Yes,
So just so you're aware of that, unless anybody want to take that, separate that from the consent agenda. So with that, I entertain a motion to accept approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, motion by Mr. Hirsch, second.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item number 5, assessment overview. Mr. Larrabee.
I'm gonna talk just a little bit while this is firing up with the gentleman on this side. Wouldn't mind, Mr. Hirsch, hop over so you can see the projector
you
once
might
it
want
lines up
to move the chair just because it'll give you a little better bed.
a little bit. If the magic of technology works, you should see a little bit. So board members that were here last year, at the end of the year, consistently throughout the year, we do what's called benchmarking assessments at the elementary and the middle school using some nationally known assessments. So for those that are new to us, what that means is we sit down with our kids multiple times throughout the year and kind of look at what can they do reading and math wise. And then at the elementary level, that's how we develop what's called our Tiger time or RTI time. So throughout the course of the year, we're kind of readjusting what our instruction is to try and meet those kids' needs on the low end and the high end as well. So a little bit of the data that we're going to have comes from that. And then at the middle school, they use nationally known assessment as well called STAR, and they use that to kind of look at how the kids are growing and then also adjust their instruction for kids that need additional help or extensions. This is great. All right, so she's in three. As I shared, we kind of look at this multiple times throughout the year. The elementary, we look at this as a fall, winter, and spring, and this is in addition to our state required assessment, the Wisconsin 4 exam, which the middle school also takes. For user purposes, this is kind of broken down into, you'll see there's a grade that's on the left side and a second grade that's on the right side. So you can see, I know it's kind of blurry and small, I apologize. But the fall, winter, and then spring kind of move in progression, if you will. So you can see that there's different on the bottom performance bands. So blue is good. We want those are the high performing kids, those kids that are kind of above the 85th percentile. And then there's kids that are in the average range. And then on the bottom, we're looking at kids in this particular assessment. This is from Fastbridge. We're looking at kids in yellow are in that below the 49th percentile to the 25th percentile. And then the red would be kids that are below that 25th percentile. So it's a little bit different with STARS graphs. And when I get to the middle school, I'll talk about that. But what we're really looking for is kind of from that fall, beginning of the year baseline, if you will. How do all of our kids progress throughout the year and get to where we look at in spring? With the Fastbridge information, we can drill down to individual kids. So when I sit down with our grade level teams at multiple points in the year, we'll actually dive into this a little bit farther. So it won't just be a bar graph. It'll be if I click on the blue, it'll tell me who are those individual kids. And then once I get to that layer, I can actually click on it again and it'll tell me for that kid exactly what skills are they really strong in and what skills are they struggling in. So when we use this as a tool in the classroom, if you think of a third grader reading wise, that's a really pivotal reading year. We can actually drill down to what skills are they struggling in. Is it a decoding type of an error, or is it a comprehension error? Is it a fluency need? So we can get even farther into that instructional piece just by going through this particular platform.
Is that broken down, or
Yep.
did you make it there? Broken down by school, by Iron River,
It
by,
is, yep. So I broke it down. I'll go through Iron River first, and then I'll go through NES, and then we'll go into middle school. So as I go through, feel free to ask questions.
So is this Iron River first or something?
This was just I don't know what it actually came from. This was my example from last year.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
I didn't reinvent the
Just
wheel.
to
I
teach
used
us how you're doing it.
Yep.
Okay.
It's nice when you look at a graph. Oh, it's colorful. It's nice to know what the colors mean. The blue line is how do our kids grow over the course of the year. I know it's really small. When I sit down with our teachers, we look at how much growth are we getting. The gray line would be kind of the national average based on millions of kids taking this assessment in the state, whereas the blue would be local to our school and that particular grade level, how much it is. So we want to see a steeper line with the blue than what the gray is. And then the yellow is those kids that are at the 25th percentile. How did they grow in comparison? And the reason that this is, again, from a format called FastBridge, they want to make sure that we're impacting our low performers. So if we have kids that are below that 25th percentile, we want to see, well, how much are we impacting them? And again, at the elementary level, we use a system called Tiger Time and RTI, Response to Intervention Time, where we really pour a lot of resources into those lower kids. Instruction, smaller group instruction. Sometimes we'll have kids that maybe get pulled out into a different person in a smaller group, or they have an individual group in the classroom. So we really try to make sure that we're keeping everybody moving forward. So, the last little piece, obviously going across the course of the year, we want to make sure that as we focus on our kids, that we're moving every kid. Every classroom teacher has access to their classroom. So every time we take an assessment, they're able to sit down and look at, okay, who moved up, who moved down. And sometimes you get an outlier, you have a kid that had a bad day, we can go back and have them take that assessment again. Or if we're seeing a certain trend, then we can start digging into it with our special ed folks or our Title I folks, myself, our school psychologist. So we can always dig into it. Okay, well, what are we seeing so we can try to support every kid? So it's a lot of information. With just kind of looking at the, I guess, the front page of the manual, if you will, but we can dig a lot deeper in the classroom, both with STAR and with FastBridge. Back to your question, Mr. Langer. So what I did here is I took, this would be our kindergarten on the left, the 3 slides, and then our first grade on the right would be the next 3 bars, if you will, in the bar graph. And then I gave a breakdown below. The reason I broke it down by the 25th percentile is, especially at our early ages, we want to make sure that we're supporting kids. So if we have a group of kids, say 23% of those kids at the beginning of the year, we want to make sure we're doing as much as we can to progress and help those kids. Obviously, sometimes it works to our advantage, sometimes it doesn't, but we learn along the way. And this particular kindergarten class, we know that when we come back in first grade, we have areas based off of our spring assessment that we're going to be ready for when we get to first grade. And then first grade again is on the right-hand side. You can see the blue kind of comes in on the last 2 slides of first grade. Those are the kids that are performing in that high, or in FastBridge, they call it college preparedness pathway. So those are the kids that are above the 85th percentile, and those high performers, which in first grade, those are kids that are already reading books independently, maybe some chapter books already. So we're again trying to catch both ends by looking at how the kids are doing, and then we can expand within our guided reading circles for individual groups of students so that we can meet their needs. Moving on to second grade and third grade, again, we see that growth coming across both grades. From a principal standpoint, when I sit down and talk to the teachers, we look at, is the red group getting smaller? Is the blue group and green group getting bigger? And you see that both with first and second and third grade as those 2 grades in reading go across. Any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to move a little bit quicker.
Is the fall September or is it beginning October?
Awesome. We give them a couple of weeks. I know we've talked with other districts that hit them right at open house. We give them a couple of weeks to get settled in. So I believe our window is still in September, not October.
Okay, so it's more like mid-September.
Yep.
Is it January for your winter or?
So we have a winter assessment that is, we give them, I think, 2 weeks after they come back from Christmas break. Again, to kind of get settled back in.
And then, is it
Our
May?
spring, yep, our spring window actually closed last Friday.
Okay,
So this is as hot off the press as I can
okay,
get.
very good.
I literally couldn't look at the data or pull accurate data until this morning. And then close out, this is 4th and 5th grade for reading at Iron River. Again, you can see we grew in areas, and again, we can drill down to those individual kids and see who not going down, which is pretty powerful to our teachers, especially when you get to farther in the reports, you can get to what the actual skills were. On the mathematics side, kindergarten has more of a math readiness test. It's called Early Math Composite. So there's a little bit difference between that assessment and then what we take in first grade through 5th grade, which is known as the A-Math. It's a computer-generated test that actually adjusts as kids answer questions. So there's a little difference. That's why those graphs look a little bit different. But again, you can see that's pretty good performance. You know, if we have 0 kids below the 25th percentile, that's where we want to stay. That would be like my green data graph right there. Moving into second and third grade, again, you see good growth across the year. We're obviously keeping kids at a high performing. We see a really relatively low percentage below the 20th percentile. If we think of our entire population, then obviously 4th grade and 5th grade did well as well. Any questions on Iron River before I go to that? And yes. And I did share this with Dr. Coney and Mrs. Janigo. If you guys want a copy, I'm sure send it off and you can look at it on paper or give me a call anytime you want as well. At Iron River, at NES for reading, in that same format, you can again see the trend lines are increasing. We're decreasing our amount of kids that are kind of that high risk category or low performing, while keeping kids in the blue at the top. Moving on into second and third grade, and then into 4th and 5th grade. Obviously, so grades 3, 4, and 5 are our grades that are assessed for the Wisconsin Forward exam. So we try to use this, if you will, to predict how our kids did. For myself, it's a positive to see that grades 3, 4, and 5 all continue to grow throughout the year. There were some ups and downs, and you can see it take 1 or 2 kids to fluctuate that bottom red piece, but we're still continuing to have kids that are high performing at the top, which is also as important as when we come back and we talk about the forward exam in the fall or early into the winter, we can talk more about how those points come together. But those high performing kids are important in that matrix.
You go back to the,
Yeah.
in every graph, there's a leveling or even a lowering between the 3rd and 4th. Is that because it's after Christmas or?
You mean in
First
3rd, 4th
Three
grades
one
or?
grade, the second 3 are
Oh,
not.
okay.
Summer digression
Okay.
or regression
That's
is
between
not
the 4th.
uncommon.
Yeah. Well, and the other asterisk on that is when you leave, say, 3rd grade and you come in 4th grade, those 4th grade standards are
Oh,
higher.
okay.
So there's a little bit of a step up at the beginning of the year with the assumption kids are going to be chronologically older. They may not understand a little bit more, but the standards are also higher. And all of these are nationally known off of the Common Core state standards. So it's a good question. Again, the difference with the 2 assessments in kindergarten, we're sitting down with them looking at kind of a number recognition, basic how do numbers combine to make total amounts, and then into the computerized test for 1st grade. So again, they make good growth across the year. Moving into 2nd and 3rd grade. With math, I kind of touched on it, that's a computer-based assessment, so it adjusts throughout the course of the year. So the standards get harder, the expectations get harder, but as a kid takes that A math test, it will go up and go down with them based on how they do. So you can get into some harder concepts that it gets interesting when I talk to kids. They're like, I didn't know that there was going to be multiplication on the 2nd grade test. Well, multiplication standards are in 3rd grade, so that 2nd graders performing high enough, they're starting to get some of those questions. So into 4th and 5th grade, again, we saw good growth as we did at Iron River, which makes my job exciting. I think the report card's going to look good based on the fact that our kids have continued to grow. And then rounding off, my computer, there it is. I did add a couple of bars. So the middle school does 4 assessments during the course of the year, so I apologize if that's even smaller. If I can zoom in on it. So I put a bar vertically, that black line, to separate. So 6th grade would be on the left, 7th grade would be in the middle, 8th grade would be on the right. STAR is a little bit different, but it very much gives similar reports. So the teachers at the middle school are able to give this assessment multiple times in the year. Then they can drill down to those kids and get a report that says, where are they doing well and what can they do next to kind of develop. So again, that helps to guide their instruction in the classroom. And the fact that they're doing it quarterly makes life as a teacher much better, because you're able to say, okay, this group of kids have this skill, but they really need to work on this skill. So if I'm a reading teacher, if comprehension's an issue with a group of kids that come through, then you can address that in a timely manner. Not wait for a state assessment, which we get our results half a year later. So it is very timely. And you can see they had very nice growth. On the math side as well, middle school historically has done very well in math. They continue to do well. You can see at the bottom, if you will, the yellow and the red combines to be that 25th percentile. So that stayed relatively low while they still have high performing on the top, continuing. So, Mrs. Greg, do you want to add anything on behalf of your staff?
I'd just say they're incredible. Staff in middle school is amazing, awesome. We kick off with that, but I also think it's really important as we look at this, as researchers and those that are analyzing, that we recognize this is really the first test after a full year of school. I don't want to say back to normal. I don't want to go back to anything. I want to move forward, right? So, but moving forward, I think that this is indicative of the power of our teachers, really and truly, and our families, helping support children, because that's what we're looking at, is those that are the gaps that we're, our students fell into as a result of not being in school every day for a couple of years. So, I'm really, really proud of our students. I think they just work so hard. I'm proud of the staff that just, we think this is good data, but good can always be the enemy of great. And we are not okay with the fact that still in 7th grade there are 10 students that are still seem to be struggling. But we recognize that hopefully we are able to catch those students up, because this is really a catch-up game. So our teachers are working in overdrive right now. Our students are working in overdrive, and our families are partnering with us at Triangular Framework. So I appreciate Brad bringing this to everyone's attention. And I appreciate the collaborative and collective effort of our community for our Tigers. I think they're doing really, really well.
I echo that. This is inclusive. This is every student, regardless of ability, disability, parental background, whatever their needs are. This is every kid that walks through our doors. And when I see that, 10 out of 71, that's a celebration. I mean, we are doing really well, and we continue to do well. Yes, sir.
Sure. So if you were to overlap this from, because I was going to head back toward COVID. So if you were to take 2021, 2022, and now 2023 and overlap this.
Playing in my hand, Mr. Landon. You stop by any day with a little bit dazzling the daylights on.
Well, I don't want to be dazzled. I don't want any of that. I'm just wondering, so you take 7th grade, you have 71.
Yep.
In last year, where was 6th grade in relation to that, to see?
Yep.
That, I guess that's kind of what I
Yeah.
wanted to know, because I mean, I'm
Well, are
not
we
naive
thinking
to know the fact that 2021 was a dumpster fire and 2022 was better.
Yep.
2023, I thought, gave normalcy to a lot of both staff and students.
Yep.
But what did that do from, I mean, I think everybody
Yeah.
has to understand that you were going to go backward for a year. Or,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
call it a blip, if you will. So for any staff that are watching at home, or most of you that are here, so these graphs may look a little bit different than what we have in our STAR platform or what we have in FastBridge.
Okay.
That's just because we use a third-party vendor, something called EduClimber, where we can pull all of our assessments into one. And because we do that, I can actually sit down and several clicks of the button, be able to run this 8th grade cohort. I can't do the math in my head. I'm going to say they're the class of 26 or whatever it is. But I can run that back all the way until basically to kindergarten. So I can take all of their prior assessments, and even though they may have been in STAR, PALS, a couple different platforms, we can kind of look on an average, how did they do in comparison to the norm? So we can do that to look back. I have not done that cohort by cohort, but when we sit down as an administration in the fall, that is one of the things that we do, because I'm always trying to predict how are we going to do on our state report card. So that's one of the tools that I can use to go back and say, well, we have 18% of the 8th grade class in mathematics that's below the 25th percentile. Is that up or down from 7th grade, 6th grade, 5th grade, 4th grade? And if they were doing better at the elementary level, hypothetically, with this resource, is it a resource issue? Is it a amount of instruction? We can start asking all those questions if we see a difference, which drives our kind of professional learning at the admin level to say, if we see something that's working here, but it's not here, how can we work together to implement that? Or is it like we're overhauling at the middle or at the elementary level, we're overhauling our reading curriculum. Thank you for that, by the way. It showed up a couple weeks ago. So one of the reasons that we did that was we went back and looked at historically compared to our neighbors, we do really well in math, but we don't in reading. So why? So we started asking some of those questions and trying trying to use our information to drive that conversation of what's best for our kids. So it led to a deep conversation that purchased a new reading curriculum for next year. So that resource next year will be year one, where hopefully we see a positive need for reading. But because of this.
Did you have a slides?
What's that?
Did you have other slides?
No, this is the last one.
Okay, so you were going exactly where I was hoping you would go. By the way, I love data guy. I'm eating this like racing cookie here. This is good stuff. But I wanted you to dwell a little bit more regarding the so what. In other words, maybe this is to you too. In other words, can you be more specific regarding this data that's fresh?
Yep.
And what are the takeaways for either improvement or corrective action, or what are the big things you guys are like?
So anybody that was at the elementary today, I basically was holed up in my office because Friday was our last day for assessment. So that was a big piece of myself going through every teacher that's at the elementary level. Where are we moving the needle? Where are we not moving the needle? And then that leads to some of those professional conversations. Now, tomorrow's the last day, so I'm not going to be the guy that says, hey, it's the last day, come, let's talk about your data. I'd like to come back next year. So those conversations will happen in the fall. And we do at the elementary have a format where we sit down and we look at this as a team. Because even though it may be my classroom data, it doesn't mean that it's not all of our kids and all of our data, because those kids get mixed and mingled and from year to year. So we'll have those conversations about what does it look like for you as a teacher, and what did your kids grow or not grow in. We can grow down to those individual skills, which helps them to become better, and it helps us to become better. So we will do that in the fall, and then we'll also set our goals based off of how our kids do in the fall, so that we can look at, well, this particular cohort of kids is really good in this, and we really need to focus on this. We try to do that so that we can target those things throughout the course of the year, so that by the end of the year, when we take the forward exam of what we're judged by, that they have improved those skills. So we try to use this to drive what we're doing as much as we can.
Yeah, I think it's just important too that if you're talking about in a month or so, you're going to be or maybe it's this month developing some district goals. Develop our board goals. We also develop district goals based off of those board goals, school goals off of those goals as well, content and grade level goals, and this is really what drives that, right? So every teacher is required by the state to develop an educator effectiveness, or their SLO, which stands for Student Learning Outcome. This is the data, and in the school world, we don't call it corrective action, but we call it, because that would imply that teacher, no, it's okay, I'm just helping, I'm a teacher by trade, but it's that we, because we don't want to ever imply that teachers are doing something wrong or students are doing something wrong, but really it's about school improvement planning, especially on the heels of national pandemics, right? We don't want to all keep talking about it, but it is part of a reality, right? So we know that, and we're moving through that and over that, thank goodness. But teachers develop SLO, student learning outcomes, and those have to be with all those SMART goals. They have to be specific, using this data, measurable, using this data, attainable by our children, results-driven data, and time-bound. We've got a year to do that. And so that's what they're all wrapping up right now, but this is what we use to really make those decisions. And on that, I also wanted to say this genuinely. I was raised that if you're in a space of gratitude, you should share that. I thank our board, the board that we've had for the last couple of years, and our new board members, and our board members who remain committed to the ship, that we appreciate your support in recognizing what do students need, what do our teachers need to make that happen. And as Brad just said, if it's programming, if it's resources, if it's time for planning, allocation of that, it's really, really important in recognizing that having good teachers, the longer a teacher is in the same grade level and the same content, that's the number one predictor of a child outcome. So something right there that gets that. So I thank you for understanding the importance of that. We're just blessed to have the teachers that we have in front of our shoes. That's part of our improvement plan.
Of which, I'm not saying that they're as excited about the data as I am, but our teachers are having conversations.
Yes.
And it isn't well, my kids do really well with this, but here's something that we could dig into. I know drill down to decisions are made based off of those kids' performances. So if they're above the 25th percentile, then they're going to be staying in a different world. If they're below that and stay below that, then they're getting those additional supports. And it's meeting the kids in a timely manner that's important. It's all piece of the operations, but we're using the lifetime information.
Well, thank you, especially Mr. Hirsch.
A cup of coffee.
And to the rest of the board, this is really refreshing to me, and what I like to see is, all right, this is just for, speak to this. What about high school? You know,
Great question.
And you know, obviously it's a different platform, but it'd be a great conversation. You know.
So we do get, if you want to add eventually, we do get the information on the ACT Secure. They just come in a different manner. In due time, I'm able to make it look like that. I literally get like a CD still for one of them, and I have to go on a different platform. So we're getting that information from them. I did look at preliminary the ACT scores, and our kids did very well this year. I just haven't been able to get it into a usable format like that yet.
We've got individual scores on that. We have, I can't really think it's a composite with all the kids combined. We've got individual scores, and the kids have gotten reports. And we just got those reports recently.
May 27th, I think.
And then
Fresh.
the ACT Secure, or the pre-ACT, is just now. So we have had some chance to look at that.
And having all these different platforms, the link that I would have to the state of Wisconsin is, it would be nice to have some instead of here, here, and here. Because it becomes very hard, as the question was, can we go back and look at how kids did? Well, we can, but when you use 3 or 4 different assessments going forward, it becomes harder. Now, I don't think you guys are ever gonna listen to me on that one, but it just is what it is. But we are able to have that conversation, but probably a bit more close to home.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and share my cookie, but I have to go coach baseball games.
Thank
I'm not running for next year.
Yes. Item 5. Item number 6 is approval item, the seal bid opening for the building construction house. I don't see the envelopes here.
There is none.
And we have no bids on the house.
That is correct. So we had a lot of traffic. Obviously, this is my first go around in the business manager chair with this particular item, which we've done for many, many years. But traffic was good. We had a lot of inquiries, but ultimately did not see a bid. So we will reshuffle the deck here, push information out. If you know of anybody that was considering it, I would definitely try to encourage them through word of mouth if they're interested. So one of the concerns I have, and I don't know if this has popped up, it's tough to get work lined up right now. I'm dealing with that from this end of things. It's tough to find the right people to put down a foundation, to get HVAC installed, to do drywall, to do all the other pieces of that puzzle. So I don't know if that's affecting people a little bit. We moved it back this year because we wanted to give people a longer bid window than what we did last year. But I guess we're trying to find the sweet spot on that. I don't know if we have it yet or not.
We will re-advertise and bring it back. Mr. Warren will bring it back to you next month.
We'll refer that to Mr. Kutchakata then. I guess any other discussion on that? I think this did happen a couple of years ago where
It's
we
happened
had
in
no
the past.
bids.
Yep.
2 or 3 years
So
ago.
I'm not, we're hopeful that it will come through at the next board meeting.
Is the expectation that at that next board meeting, if there's still no bids, is there gonna be some sort of a?
A what if clause?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you I'm working on that. How's that sound?
Let's be optimistic. Just leave it at that.
So,
We need teacher housing, just say,
Good point.
let's keep them here rather than going to Superior. That's where they can get it.
Like you're right.
started development.
Why not?
Okay, well, any other discussion on that? Well, I go to the next item, item 6B, school calendar for 23-24 revised.
Yes.
Dr. Tony?
Right, we have again revised for the last time, the 23-24 school calendar. Principals had agreed that May 10th, 2024 would be a day with no students, staff development day. Unfortunately, we received an email from the high school music department, which stated that traditionally that Friday has been designated for the Pops concert. We contacted principals and we moved the day to the following Monday, May 13th, as a no student staff development day. We do not want to interfere with the long tradition of having the Pops concert.
And just for information, that is also a school board meeting date.
Yes, that,
May 20.
the 13th, right.
It's
Right.
a school board meeting.
Yeah.
Which makes it inconvenient maybe for some.
Oh, if they're gonna come and present
Right.
at that meeting? Yes.
Okay,
Although that's a professional development day, not a student day. You mean for
Right,
students
so
to
this-
present?
right,
Right.
but we don't get many students at this.
Not at that, yeah.
So anyway, I guess we would, need
Enough.
a motion to revise
Yes,
this.
please.
So we need a motion and a second,
Make a motion to approve.
and it makes a motion to approve,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Lambier. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. The item C, WIAA senior high membership renewal for 23-24. And I believe the membership, there's no fee for the 8th, 9th, or 10th year to be a member of the WIAA. But we still want to be a member of the WIAA, right, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we need a motion, second, and is there a motion to maintain our membership in the WIAA?
Make a motion?
Motion by Mrs. Olson,
Second.
second by Mrs. Brunette, and all those in favor say aye. Passed. Okay, 66.03.01 cooperative agreement with South Shore Occupational Therapist.
Yes, we will have Stephanie Rain with us for 4 days and 1 day at South Shore. It started off this year where we had her for 3 days and 2 at South Shore, but their need is less.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve that cooperative agreement with South Shore for the occupational therapist. Need a motion, second, and we'll have a vote.
I make a motion?
Motion by Mr. Olson,
Second.
second by Mr. Glanick. Any further discussion?
Is our need 4 days?
Yes. Yeah, Allison was very happy that we were able to.
Yeah, we switched this actually, we amended it a couple months ago, so she's been here 4 days, and at South Shore, 1 day.
Yeah, I remember that. I just want to make sure that, you said we started at 3, there's a need to have her 4 months.
Sure.
Especially after the OT quota left halfway through the year, and then we needed to fill that need, so.
Danny, Nicola, there's.
Very, very good question, though. Any other questions regarding this? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, co-curricular officials check signing for Mr. Fetchicotter. Amount raised from $250 to $500. And we saw the justification in our packet.
Yep, the enhancement really speaks for what it is. We've got a very compressed spring sports season, so by rule, I cannot sign checks without a treasurer present or another board member present with regards to authorizing anything over $250. So what we had is a number of officials worked 3-4 games, so they would be over that $250 threshold. And then how we kind of worked around it, so people want to pay our officials, obviously, we cut 2 checks. So I just assumed bump this to $500, that should cover us for any kind of issue that I see in the future. But that's really kind of what drives this. So we'll just be a little more streamlined with our approach.
And for the information of the other members, prior to even the $250 limit, they weren't getting paid until the checks were approved at a meeting. So they might officiate event on the first part of January and not get paid till after the February meeting. So they were waiting a long time, and I think they're maybe reluctant to come here because of that. So
That's, like I
When we
said,
switched to the voucher system, there was some teeth gnashing.
you're
We
right.
used to get checks.
Yeah.
But then we went to a system where you signed the voucher, and then we paid within a week. So some were nervous about the voucher. I don't think it impacted, they came or not. They were nervous.
Okay, any other discussion on this?
I do have one question, and maybe that's to you, is, would there be any advantage to you if that, if it done was even more than $500?
I don't anticipate it being, at this point in the game, going on that.
The difficulty is spring. You had double headers, one after another after another.
Yep.
I think that's a valid question Mr. Hirsch has, because we're not just thinking of fall,
Yeah.
winter, we're thinking of,
Spring is what drove this.
it is.
It's-
Yeah, I'm not opposed to giving authority, so if it's more than $500, let's do it.
If they want to move the number, that's fine with me. That was just something.
I think it'd be
internal
safer
conversation we had.
sometimes, 800, if we have another spring like this. This was ridiculous.
I'm comfortable with that number going up if you guys want to. So I know there is kind of where we were at based on some of the projections of this spring, which hopefully we don't have a winter like we all just went through very soon.
That's Mr. Draper.
But if it was 500, you just cut more than one check.
I believe 500 would be sufficient at this point in time.
Even with the spring like we had.
You know, like we have, that's, I didn't
Mr. Smith, you think 500 is, he'd be the guy who probably knows.
It's double headers, that'd be 400. And you have to do another single game, that'd be 100 more. That's not gonna happen very often where the same guys are doing,
Same one.
those are the varsity level guys he's
Yeah.
talking about. Lower levels don't get that much, they'd have to do, well, they'd have to do 10, 12 games a week to get to that number. To get to 750, 800, so I think he'd be pretty safe.
That's really mainly a spring issue. I mean, it's
Right,
just
right.
Volume of the spring naturally is, it's a short season.
With 600, then even if they did 2 doubles.
500 would be accurate.
I'm comfortable with 5. If you want to make it more, then I want to bring it back in 10 years, whenever this. I think it's about the last time we changed it, apparently, history-wise. Roughly 10 years ago, I was still.
Is there every price increase for the pumps? Or-
Yeah, there is next year, yeah.
So,
Like $10, $10.
That came into account.
So it went from 100 to 110, it went from 190 for doubleheader to 210. So it went up, the conference voted to go up. Varsity officials only. The lower level officials, we decide locally for the reason for that. So I think at least for a year 500 will be fine. It's gonna be a nice spring next year.
Guaranteed.
So is this increase specifically, I mean, the way it's written, the way that I comprehend it anyways, is it's specifically for sports-related payments to referees?
That's what drives this, yes.
That,
That's-
I mean, I guess there's checks and balances for a reason in all of this stuff, so at a small amount, at $250, you can do that. You continue to fall within that checks and balance threshold. You change it to 500.
That's exactly.
But is that specific to only that, or that you have the authority now to write a $500, up to a $500 check for that? That's what we're saying here, correct?
This is, yeah, what is driving this is the officials.
No, I understand that that's what drives them, but
Now, in theory, could I write a check for $500? No, yes, unless the board tells me, to pay X, Y, Z bill for whatever reason.
That's what I was thinking.
It doesn't happen, hasn't happened, to my knowledge.
that's, I guess that's my intent. You want to make sure that the checks and balances continue to be there. So at $500 with the people who are in charge of said thing are comfortable with $500. I say I take that. I don't think you need to increase it at all beyond what they're saying. And it's easy enough to have a 5-minute conversation in a year if we have to change it.
I anticipate 500 will be sufficient for what we need, and if we can come back, we can come back and do it, so.
And then I do have one more question. Is there some sort of a binding bylaw or something that has to be updated because of this, or where does this become formal? Maybe that's a question.
In the minutes.
That's it?
Soon as we do it, it's a
Okay.
practice.
There's no other document that needs to be updated?
No, it's a practice. It's not a policy.
Okay, thank you.
Janet, do we have a first on this item?
We have not.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve the $500.
Okay, motion by Mr. Lennox, second by Mr. Crowley. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Nope, roll call.
It's money, oh, money, money, money. Okay, roll call, vote. Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
Mr.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Crowley.
Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you for.
Not here for you.
Oh.
10 minutes.
Okay, we now have the administrative report, Dr. Crone.
Alrighty, communications. A list of school board meeting dates, July 2022 through, wait, no, that doesn't sound, should be listed dates, July 2023 through June 2024. WIAA bulletin, copy of the exit interview for Jane Pangrack, shared with the board by her request. Board committee assignments, you've got all of those. Maintenance report, Mr. Fetchel.
Yeah, you have the maintenance report there. We are coming to the end of our school year, obviously, tomorrow. Just a lot of general maintenance. I will give a little bit of recognition to Chanel. This is the new owner of the refinery. They are getting rid of office furniture and working with nonprofit organizations like ourselves to try to get rid of some of that stuff. So we got some free stuff, to be completely honest with you. That's in really good shape. Our head custodians went up there, take a peek at different tables and chairs and file cabinets, as you see there. So we've been working with them to take some of their stuff and not have to pay for anything. So it's nice.
The bus that we were waiting for.
The special or the handicap accessible bus.
Yeah. Whichever one.
Yep, the one that we've been waiting for 3 years is the former special ed director. I'm hopeful that it shows up here this summer.
I thought I saw it, but it must have.
It's not here yet.
Watched in one of our other ones.
Might have shined the other one up.
Look good. Thank you.
We've been waiting for that Christmas present for a long time, and I'll tell you shortly, we need it because it's kind of linked everything together. And now we're to the point where we're one bus that we will no longer pass inspection. We know that. That's why we ordered it a while back.
Yeah, I just thought I saw it.
Yes, I will. I hope they deliver it like one of those modes that you see on the
Yeah.
the big red ones.
That'd be nice.
But we'll see. Other than that, general maintenance, your stuff is listed there for you.
Do I direct Mr. Oh, okay. D, CISA number 12 report, Mr. Glonick.
Yes, so our last CISA 12 meeting, we had our reorganization meeting, so some of the same chairs there, Mark Hoffman, South Shore, he runs the meetings. We also talked about some of the delegates going down to WASB. It would be Ryan from Shawamigan and Tracy from Drummond. We approved the mileage rate for 23-24 for the staff there. The salary increase for the staff there. We approved a hire for the youth apprenticeship coordinator, pending some grant funding. Approved community assignments. We also talked about, there's a closing date for the CISA building they're selling on June 30th. And then after that's all done, each district should be approximately $12,000 back to each district. And I think we talked, there was options of our share to pay for the new building over 3 years, and some people paid right away, but everybody's should be getting that check right away. Not gonna split that up if you paid 3 years, which we did, right? We did. So yes, we'll get the full 12,000. And then our next in-person meeting is in August, and hopefully I'll be able to tour the new building.
So what did they sell the building for?
3 something, 17 times 12, plus some.
It's gonna be used for,
The people that bought it?
Yeah.
Sounds like apartments
Wow.
in the future.
Okay.
We need one of those buildings.
We had one right up.
Thank you, Mr. Guy. WASB correspondence and legislative report, Ms. Olson.
All right. The Assembly Committee on Local Government will hold a public hearing tomorrow on a number of bills, including one that would allow school board members to serve as voluntary bus drivers, provided certain conditions are met.
Voluntary?
Yes.
Anybody want to sign up today? We'll take it.
The bill is in an effort to provide more potential school bus drivers in an environment where many schools are facing driver shortages. The Senate companion bill, which companion bills are identical versions introduced in the other house so that they can make their way through the legislative process more quickly, was recommended for approval by the Senate Education Committee and a unanimous bipartisan vote. The WASB supports this bill. The Senate Committee on Education held public comments at a hearing on Tuesday, May 23rd on the following legislation. Senate Bill 115, requiring 1/2 credit of personal financial literacy for high school graduation. Under current law, a school board may grant a high school diploma to a pupil only if the pupil meets specific statutory requirements, including earning a certain number of credits in various subjects in the high school grades. Beginning with students graduating in 2028, this bill requires that to graduate high school, a student must earn at least 1/2 credit of personal financial literacy. That includes financial mindset, education and employment, money management, saving and investing, credit and debt, and risk management and insurance. Also, in the public comment was Senate Bill 206, maintaining a supply of usable opioid antagonist at a school. Under current law, school boards and governing bodies of private schools are required to supply a standard first aid kit for use in an emergency. Also under current law, certain school personnel, including employees and volunteers of public and private schools, are permitted to administer an opioid antagonist on a person who appears to be undergoing an opioid-related drug overdose. That's it.
Is that finance thing, is that what Mrs. Johnson teaches?
Yes.
That's much needed thing. Donation, plural.
Yes, the Transportation Department received a set of 4 used 11/22.5 tires, the same as what is used for our school buses. They're in very good shape, worth about $800.
I want to put a name to that real quick. It was Alex and Jennifer Holden. Sorry, I apologize. Alex and Jennifer Holden.
How do you spell the last name?
H-O-E-G-E-N. Sorry.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
and it's
Alex and Jennifer. Yes.
and Jennifer. She's one of our bus drivers. That's cool. Jenny Lee donated band instruments valued at $850 to the music department at Northwestern High School. And Scott and Paula Davis donated 21 boxes of, it says grades and box of pencils to NES.
Crayons,
21 boxes of grades. and a box-
crayons,
Crayons.
So boxes of, so it's not grades at all, it's crayons. Oh,
yeah. You were in a meeting when that got corrected.
Spell check.
Okay.
Typo.
It is.
All right, so Scott and Paula Davis donated 21 boxes of crayons and a box of pencils to NES. That was a new one since they were.
Those are, all those donations are definitely appreciated.
Yes.
And I know according to our past practice, they're.
Thank you, Noel. Yes.
Okay, reports from Northwestern High School, Northwestern Middle School, Northwestern Elementary School. Director of Special Ed and Athletic and Activities Director. We received those reports in our packet. Any comments? Student, staff, and community recognition. Yeah, at the time, you know, it was a good graduation. Let's say that. Speaker did a nice job. A good time was had by all. Okay. Comments from the audience? And I have to read this. The comments from the public. Agenda item is not the forum for school district or major personnel concerns. The public needs to refrain from the use of names or specific positions when used in a negative manner. If you have concerns that involve personnel or staff members, please contact the building principal or the superintendent. And please state your name and where you're from. Will wants to speak. You now have the floor. Okay.
Hi, I'm Heather Miller from School. Both my parents actually, my dad was a special ed teacher in Northwestern, my mom was a school nurse here, I grew up here. And played sports and stuff. I'm talking about Crane River Elementary School, which actually now is a new point in time since the fourth grade teachers already been hired. Obviously, our biggest thing, I mean, I'm assuming you guys got the surveys that we filled out from Crane River about this, and then obviously some more letters recently, that were hopefully in your packets. The discussion is not to have a part-time teacher again. So, I mean, obviously we're going to in fourth grade. But our fourth graders, which is one of my daughters in that grade, she will be having a teacher in the fourth grade. And Mrs. Paulus in the afternoon, who has to teach 26 kids. It is not just Phi Ed and music, it's social studies and science. You know, like Mrs. Craig had said, that we're on the heels of the pandemic, and hopefully everybody's moving forward. But I feel like Iron River now is backstepping because we have yet another part-time teacher in our grade. The fourth grade has already had 2 part-time teachers in kindergarten and first, and now here we are again. So I know the new board members that are here, you guys were part of this, some of the older ones. I just wished when it was discussed that it was, I mean, nobody talked to parents, nobody talked to the teachers, what they thought. It was based on one person. And I had a discussion with the one person, and the only comment was when I said, well, why did you talk to parents and teachers, was I make the decisions. So a little frustrating because there's a lot of people that didn't want this. We are so thankful that the second grade is staying in Iron River. I mean, we've always went for that. We don't want our kids to move. But just because we have less kids in our school does not mean we have less education. And yet again, the fourth grade is going to have a part-time new teacher. And obviously that can be fixed, but there's a lot of frustration. Again, I just wish that things would have been done differently. And I like to ask for, and making these big decisions, I know you guys have to make this, but I just wish those big decisions put a little bit more thought in it, and maybe talking to parents, maybe talking to the teachers that are actually boots on the ground in that district, because they know what's best for our children, because they work with our kids. So, I mean, even that, I know a lot of the teachers, I mean, they're awesome, all teachers are awesome. And Iron River has pulled together, but we have a lot of new teachers. And the consistency for our kids are not there, especially in the fourth grade. So yet again, I also asked why the fourth grade teacher who had been teaching fourth grade moved to the second. And I was told because they were less independent than the fourth graders. Well, the comment to me about that, or what I think, is that was never thought about when my daughter had a part-time teacher in kindergarten first. 2 grades. So again, now we go to inconsistency again. These kids, the second graders have never had a part-time teacher. Now this will be our 3rd part-time teacher for 4th grade. It's not cool. I wish that would have been reevaluated. I wish that would have been talked about. It's frustrating, and I'm sure, like I said, some of the letters, some people didn't want to write letters because they were afraid. They wanted to be anonymous, but this is why I'm here, why we're here, is to talk about this. I didn't realize that they had already hired a 4th grade teacher. So, like I said, yet again, our class is going to have a brand new teacher, part-time. You talk about this testing, the state testing, and all these things. Going to 4th grade is a huge year for that. I also know the 4th grade math is much harder than 3rd. But we're gonna have inconsistent new teacher. Just that.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Kristen Gilmer. My family and I moved up here from the Minneapolis area 5 years ago, and we specifically chose to live in the main school district. It's sad to say that we're leaving the district probably after this year, and the reason is due to the frequent staff and teacher changes at Iron River, the recurrent part-time teachers that we experienced over the years, the lack of services for neurodivergent students, like my daughter, the lack of principal presence at Iron River Elementary, the lack of nursing presence at Iron River Elementary, the lack of open communication between the superintendent and principal to the board not accurately sharing the voice of teachers and parents. For example, this fourth grade part-time teacher situation. And the nail in the coffin was the difficulty with third grade teacher clearly not having the skill set to deal with neurodivergent kids and then not having the support to help that teacher educate and discipline a classroom that was very full of neurodivergent kids as well as kids who needed, had some physical challenges and needed support. And now having a part-time fourth grade teacher. As a result, we're meeting with 2 separate school districts this week to pull both of our children from the Maple School District and switch, because we just don't see consistency coming to Iron River Elementary.
I just wanna bring up one more thing, there's actually another parent that is also moving their child out of the fourth grade due to the same reasons, and they're homeschooling their child this year.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, well, that is the end of the comments from the audience. But with that, before we adjourn, I'd like to say one thing. This is the last regular meeting for one person here, Dr. Cody. And we've been here 8 years. I've been here the whole time, and I think it came at a very difficult time when we were just trying to recover from Act 10. We've been through the COVID, which is a very difficult time, and I do appreciate the efforts and the leadership that you've shown in our district. And I want to publicly thank you for your time here and wish you the best in the future as you become a Uper. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
You need them 9 years for full watch.
Right. I'm good.
Okay, with that, we have entertain a motion for adjournment. Yeah, let's go for the motion. Give me a second for that. Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.